Okay, so let's take a look at today. And I think this was, yes? 3 is after 2.
3 up.
What?
What does 3 go after up?
3 goes after 2.
No, it doesn't.
What does 3 come after?
Comes after 4.
No, it comes before 4.
It comes
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, give me a little bit to talk about markets. Okay, so yes, no, you had enough popsicles. Okay, so this morning I think was really interesting. If you remember yesterday into the close, we were looking for 2 things. There were 2 things that mattered here. The first was a move down to deal with stops that were lingering, and we got that pretty well. Down to about the VoLTE I thought made about sense to hit enough of the stops that would be lingering there from people who are being a little conservative with the ideas they're seeing develop. The second thing was that the bears were struggling to find any bulls to make a mistake, trap, and run to use to pump the market. So that's where we were yesterday. So right off the open, a couple of things happen. We have the market moving, and you can't really see right here, but intrabar, it got very close and a little bit above, and you could see there's the volume. Now this moved back under, and then it moved down. And I think what was happening here was the bears were trying to prepare themselves for trapping in some bulls, but boy, were they surprised at what happened. Let me get this rescaled so it's a little easier to see. Okay, there. So this was a little bit of a tough read. If you're watching it in real time, I think it would be easier to read than what it looks like historical. Oh, is Zoom doing that thing again? It's like a Friday thing. I think people come in on Fridays. They don't understand what the goal is. Okay, thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so the goal here was for the bears to come in and find some bulls to take out. And you can see essentially, whether you saw this pop up or not, this moved down. Turn my little drawing pad here. Okay, there. And there's our volume, and it continued all the way until here. And these were the bulls who you could see immediately hit. So we have the bulls hitting. And what's important here is you could see tension rising. This was a big problem for the bears because sorry, Andy, I just read your comment about drawing a number line. I'll work on it with them this weekend. So this is a big problem for the bears because all they needed yesterday was to trap some bulls, and it couldn't be done. So right here, we get those bulls coming in, they hit, tension rises out of their position, they are successful. The market drifts up, and you can see there's our bearish sample. We finish up the volume here. It dips under, bulls hit again. There's a bearish sample, then it dips under, bulls hit again. We have 3 bullish positions show up. This is not going the way that the bears wanted, not at all. They were wanting to trap in a position, to run that position upside down and drive it underwater and pump the market lower today, and they did not get it. What's really important is that right here, we did see, you have to zoom it in to see it, and so I'm going to do that because it's a little tough to see now. You could see right off the open, these bears hit. You see that tick down? They hit. They were thinking they were going to get what they wanted. And they hit this market down right into the hands of the bulls, and the bulls picked it right back up and then finished their order about here, and tension continued to rise. These guys, they essentially hit, but the structure they wanted, gone. They did not get the structure they wanted. So they got turned underwater right about here. And you can see a lot of these positions are at very similar areas right here. And then you can view this as a potential one there too. But I think it was pretty clear by this one, but this one for sure, that the bears had failed to accomplish what they were after. They failed to find some bulls. And you remember yesterday was sort of a pain. They got a little bullish position. They drove it up. Nothing happened. It was like, where are the bulls? And we dipped it back down. Overnight, they picked up hit any lingering stops that were around. And then even today, they dipped the market essentially dipped down, putting pressure on anyone. So I think this is a big deal. This is changing the tone of the market. Now let's take another little step back and take a look at tension right here. This popped over zero, which was a zero test in the morning, and the bears got liquidity and did hit, which pushed it down to zero, and the bulls picked this up, meaning that the bulls immediately defended daily tension. Those two things in conjunction made it very clear the bulls were here and they were not going underwater. At that moment, when you saw this daily zero test pop up, you saw liquidity finish and get hit, and 30-minute tension rising out of that, you should have said to yourself, holy cow, the bulls are here. As that went up, the next event for here to look for was the 30-minute zero test, which is where the bears would get their chance to defend 30-minute control, which they had for a while, you could see. So this was a big moment. Those bears had been controlling it and enjoying the benefits of doing so. And in that moment, that's where that crossed. And you can see that no matter what happened with price, sure, it popped down. It didn't even sort of slow tension. There was just no defense from the bears. We saw the bears start to crumble yesterday into the close. They couldn't find any bulls to trap. They couldn't pump the market further. They ran into trouble. This morning, the bulls showed up. They hit 30-minute they hit the daily zero test on tension. They were able to pick up this liquidity. They were able to hit it, pump this, and the market folded this position over. And I think this should have been fairly obvious if you had been tracking these positions, that essentially there was a couple of positions right about in here. Maybe we could scoot that just a little higher, say right about there. That's about these three positions, and then this one. But I think this is essentially where the bears thought they could put their foot down. I'll mark this one out because this is going to play a role in a minute here, and I want to talk about it. So right about here, let's say right about here, they had lost 30-minute tension. Bulls had defend daily. Bulls had hit 3 times. The bears hit here, and then they started to fail. They failed to hit and impact tension. So at that moment, when this, right about here, the bears had lost everything. It was over. They had screwed up. They failed. They couldn't make it happen. It was extremely clear, I think, at that moment, because they had lost 30-minute tension there. And this drawback down was, I suppose, a latent response to the zero test, but you could see with tension they had no influence. It basically just came back down to the VWAP and then moved back up. And that was how the morning played out. I don't think this was that complicated. I think the samples were fairly clear. I think the very first one was a little tough to see because it essentially, disappeared over time. But even not giving that, you can see that the bulls hit here, and then the bears and the bulls. It should have become pretty clear to everyone what was going on. The bears were losing control of tension, 30-minute tension. They were failing to hit liquidity. The bulls were picking things up, and it was pretty clear it was happening. So at this moment, right about here, you could tell what was going to happen. So what you do is you take a look at your positions, and I think this is the most important one, but you could do it for many of these. And you ask yourself, well, where are they going to be wrong? And we already established this yesterday. The thing is this is their root position from yesterday right here. This is the one. This is the one that sort of started it all off yesterday, and I think the best trade for the day was right here. That was easily the best spot to get in. This is the one that the market's targeting. They want to run that out. If the bulls are going to get here, they're going to go after that root position. And you can see that they've turned it upside down, been able to drive things up, but I don't see an acceleration in tension just yet. I think the bulls are doing a bulls do, taking their time, moving things along, and they're going to control the structure of the market. That's what bulls are good at. Bears are bad at that. They're just not very good at controlling structure. They never have been. They're good at impulse moves. They're good at moving quickly, but sustained and continued moves, they're just not that great at. So right now, the next thing we need to look at is where would liquidations occur and how are we going to get there to accomplish that. I think that the liquidations are going to occur above yesterday's highs. So I'm going to draw a line there so that you can see it. I think it's the intraday high. So I'm going to draw a line right there. That intraday high, I think, is going to be the spot where that if you are a bear, that's the line in the sand. We can't have it pushing out yesterday's high. We had our root positions from yesterday, and we had everything set up, and it was the bulls failed and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So I think that's the place to get to liquidate, and then we'll see tension curl up, and I think we are headed in that direction. I think that it was set in stone. Once 30-minute tension clearly had moved over zero, which was this dip here, it was set in stone. These bears are going to get taken out. So that's where we are. Take a look at our options for liquidity. This has slowly been making its way towards zero, but 45 minutes left. I don't think we're going to get to zero at this rate. I think basically what's going to happen is just keep grinding in this direction. Decay could move down and sample zero. Either way, a move down would sample the bulls in a market that has structurally taken out the bearish position, established bullish footholds in the market, shown the bulls can control probabilities, and that the bears cannot. I don't think a move down would be wise for the bears to push. So if they came in and just dumped orders in, I think that would be absolutely foolish because the bulls are just making their way to stops. That's all they're doing. Let's take a look at the inversions, which is one that I like to look at. You can see we got this order here. Here's where 30-minute tension got lost. It dipped, and now we're back over. And you can see as soon as that was really established, we started to bounce off of the inversion line, and now we're just headed up. It's grinding. This is a bleed up, and it's bleeding into liquidating these bears. I think of all the days that I've made these videos for the past 2 weeks, which I had a couple days off, this was one of the clearer days to see what was going on because of the tension, because of the way that liquidity worked out. I think this was actually pretty clear. You can mark out the entries, you can mark them out, and it should look pretty clear to you what was happening. And then you should be able to say, well, where would they have their stops? And you may differ on where you think they are. I think this is where they would be. This position right there, nice and safe there. And I think that these guys down here are hoping that it'll get defended or something. I don't know. But I think everyone's going to get blown out as this moves through that level. That's where we're headed. So what's going to happen next? Now that we know where things are headed, what's happened, how this got built, what's going to happen next? What do we look for next week? What does next week even look like? Well, this isn't too bad. I mean, even if this got pumped up and we got to what, like negative 33% or something into the close, that's not too bad. We could keep going. We could pump this further. No problem. So here's what I think would make sense currently. And this is just going to be a bare bones, what I think would make sense. We pop this up. We run those guys out, right? We're like, we got you. We got you. And then we sort of drift around, I don't know, something into the close, somewhere in this range here. We close the market up, up here. And then on Monday, or at least Sunday's open with futures, we get the market to pop down. Something that can get those bears to say, oh my gosh, like it was just it was this philosophy, one tick trap. That could totally work. Or something like that, where it feels like you just popped up through the highs just a little bit just to go flat. Now, this is not what's going to happen. I just think it would make, I do. You're right. I have the wrong scene. Thank you. So we close somewhere up here that the market could pop down and we could motivate some bears to try and come in and say, oh, we're going to drive this down. It doesn't even have to be much. We close it here. And then just use those bears to pump the market higher. Because I think what is going to be the next thing is that bulls like to structurally trap those bears in and run them out, create a little drama. We created the drama yesterday. Hopefully, if you watched yesterday, you can go back and watch it if you want, but hopefully you watch it in real time because I think it'd be easier to watch in real time. We generated a bunch of drama right in here. The drama played out, and bulls and bears did it here, and the bulls won. And this drama is turning into a liquidation upside. I think this scenario here really is what drove the money. It was when we created that drama, the differences of opinion, the hopes and fears and ups and downs that really created the motivation, the mindset to set today up. So we're going to need to get a little bit more drama after we run this up through here. I think that it would make sense to slow things down, say, all right, we got where we wanted to go. Let's go ahead and take a minute here, see if we can get a little more drama out of these bears before we move higher. Now, that's just me saying, let's get more positioning in. That's what that sounds like to me. I'm sitting here thinking, well, could we get some more bullish positioning going before we really run this a whole bunch higher? That's how I would do it. Otherwise, if this was enough, if the bulls were able to pick up enough positioning through here and they're happy and satisfied, it's just never coming back. So there's not much to be done through here. I think that's important to note. If you're in a position, you have some real upside potential here as the sentiment shifts from bearish to bullish. And once that gets set in stone, as we start to try and create that drama that drives a bullish trend further and further, you have a good position. But if you don't, I don't think it's going to be safe to pop in here, not because it's not going to keep going. I think at this point, bears lost. But because if we do try to generate some further drama, you may be holding more pain than you want. And I don't know if we're going to do that. I don't know. I don't know. But if I was going to do this and take the time to be bullish, I would create some more drama tomorrow or Monday before driving it higher, maybe even just in the overnight session. So I think hopping into a new position at this point is, you're hopping in right about where they're trying to liquidate those bears that we set up earlier today. You're getting in at the end. You should have hopped in earlier today at some time and held on with the objective of getting those liquidations to happen. That's what you should have done. And hopefully I was clear enough about what we wanted to see today that as you watch these things develop, even just through Zoom or wherever, that you're able to pick up on these events and that it was pretty clear it was happening. I really do hope that I was clear enough about what the market needed to do and what was happening, that it was something you could take advantage of. So on Monday, the thing will be, how do we continue to pump tension? That's really is the question. Can bulls continue to get this to go further? That's the question. At the end of the day, that's it. And for the bears, it's an if statement. It's dependent. If the bulls moved aside, then they could drive it down to zero, and that would be elastic, or essentially a burn off. So those are your choices. And with tension just about 30%, maybe like 33 into the close or something like that, this can totally happen for another entire day. There's no reason for the bulls to stop. There's no limits. There's no, this is too far. This is high. It is not high. They have the sky's the limit right now. So this is a difficult situation to try and figure out if you should add or not. It's tough because we could see further drama tomorrow to try and build some more tension before things really would move. Or we could see this just never come back. And I think it's a dangerous spot to try and play because you might have the right narrative and end up in a position that you really don't want. So what you should do is say, okay, I understand what's going on. I understand this. And on Monday, when you come back and you sit down, you say to yourself, what do the bulls need to do? They need to pump this further. And how do you pump tension? You liquidate the counterparty. So you should know. So they're going to need to find some counterparty, or at least that would be a good thing to do, to try and to find that counterparty. and then the bulls will want to pick up liquidity and pump it further. So it might look something like this. We might see the market, let's say prices open just flat on Monday. I doubt that, but let's say they open flat, and velocity opened flat too, and it popped up, or maybe it opened a little under, and it sampled the bears. You say, oh, there's the bears. Price might move up and then move down, and then as it moved down, it might sample the bulls, and then so you have the bears and the bulls, and then you see that move up. And in this moment, you'll be watching tension. If tension's rising through that, you're gonna go, oh my gosh, these bears are gonna get destroyed, and it's gonna shoot up through their position and look to liquidate them, and that will be the way that they'll pump this higher and higher and higher. That's the kind of thing you're going to be looking for on Monday. Right there, that. You want to see a time when the bears mess up, or the bulls, or even we have this scenario, maybe velocity opens here, maybe it gaps up a little bit, and then velocity leans down and gets to zero and samples the bulls. Price maybe leans down a little bit, samples the bulls, and right out of that, you see them hit, you see velocity or tension moving, and then maybe decay comes up, samples the bears, and so we get a bear sample. And you're like, well, these bulls are hitting. I think these bears are going to get toppled, and then it would move up and take them out. That's the kind of thing I expect if the bulls are going to continue to pump tension throughout the day. And that's what I anticipate unless the narrative changes. Until something changes, that's what one of those scenarios is going to play out like that. Otherwise, we can mark out where the bulls are. So I'm going to move this down and say this is the root bullish position, right? That's where it all started. And I think the root bearish position essentially is this one right here. We've hit their liquidity. This is right up there, just nailing it. We're waiting for this to accelerate. I think there's a chance for a pop, maybe up to 78, I want to say, 3178. We see that sweep up there. It's essentially the bears going, dang it. They're unwinding that position. As we hit that level, we'll see tension accelerate into the close, and then that's the whole trade. I mean, that's the trade. It's done. You wait until you see that liquidation at the places where you want to see it. The trade is mostly done, and then you're like, all right, there it was. And the only way that you can hold on to that further is if you have a scope that's bigger. So essentially, if you're tracking just today, you would have said, here's the bears, here's the bulls. Where would these bears liquidate? And at least for me, I think that based on what happened yesterday, this is the spot. Then when you see that pop up and it gets through there and you see this accelerate, you say, okay, that's the trade, it's over. Now, if you're looking at the whole structure, this is a higher stratum, then you say, okay, well, I think they're going to run through those stops and then we'll see things happen and then it can continue maybe further based on the structure. We're gaining trend momentum here. Then you might hold on longer. I personally just like impulses. I want to get into a trade when it should work. I want to see that trade work immediately. I want to see it run and give me no trouble, go to right where I want it to go. I get out. I'm happy. I sleep at night. I like that the best. That's my favorite way to go about this. Whether it's overnight trading or anything, my objective is to minimize the amount of time I'm in a trade if I can, and maximize the amount of profit I can get out of it if I can. I personally don't like to swing trade. It stresses me out. But if you want to, I think we're developing some pretty good stuff here. I think today worked out pretty well. It was a good development. We got things going. So there's some potential for the upside. Just be aware that the bulls may want to create some drama on Monday, and that could mean the market doesn't quite run off the way you want. But at the same time, we could see a gap and go on Monday, where it just pops up and just never comes back. This is the difficulty. This is the spot where it's like, well, what should I do? Should I add? And it's like, well, if you didn't already, you really shouldn't do anything. If you're lucky, it comes back. Alex asked, did I trade? I did a little, but I had on Fridays, I have family over and stuff during the day, but I did a little. Mostly because if I have family here and I have a trade going or something like that, I'm useless. So I try not to trade on Fridays as much as I can, but I thought that the things that were going on were pretty good, and I was able to do small, and by small, I mean not size-wise. I mean, I wasn't looking for 20 points. I wanted to see the opportunity show up. I was able to take advantage of it, get in. It was able to run. I got out and said, okay, I'm just going to pay attention to family now, and that's what I did. That's all I did. I think actually there was some good opportunity last night, overnight, where the market dipped down and got to where we wanted it to go. But that would have been a lot tougher a little riskier to get in. Anyway, so we're here and we kind of have an idea where we're going. We want to see tension continue. That's what we want. That's what the bulls want. That's what the trend wants. And the only way for this to change direction will be elasticity. And that elasticity would look like this. Maybe the market opens here and it moves down and velocity samples. And then the bulls just do nothing, right? Here's the sample. And the bulls do nothing. And tension at that moment just doesn't go anywhere up. And the bears would say, bulls, you missed. And then we would get to see some sort of bearish sample. Price maybe move up, and then that would move down, and the bears would be trading, trying to capture this section here. And that would be elastic. That's the way it would fall apart. So that's the thing you'll want to watch for to know which events are playing out. We know those are the things that happen in these scenarios. You get elasticity, which burns, or we continue. And it has to do with how these liquidity samples interact with each other. It really is a topological study of liquidity. It's their interaction and how they work together as systems. Yeah?
Something so I can watch.
You know how to do it. Oh, did it get turned off? Just a second.
Turn it here. I want to hear it.
In a little bit. Okay. So that's where we are. I think that we have reached our target, which is popping through that spot where I think they should have liquidated. Which I'm not, if I were in a position, this would have been where I hopped out. I'd be done right here. That got to everything I wanted, everything you could possibly want. You got those numbers. Now, I do think that liquidating a position in a couple of days, over a couple of days, all these orders and this one and the other ones, that this should sweep up and we should see an acceleration here on tension. I think that makes sense. Total sense. As you unwind your position and it's broad enough, you should see those effects. That's what happens when you unwind your position, because you're a large institution. You don't have the freedom to just jump out wherever you want and do whatever you want. You get pressured out. Matt just said his son interrupted a call with a foreign government. Awesome. To put Blippi on his iPad. So that's what I'm looking for right here into the close. I think a shot up makes a lot of sense. One thing to watch during this time, and I'll try to remember to put this back because I forgot last time, is to watch this here. So we have 1067 on the tick. And so if this popped up and ran through that would essentially close it. So we'd have if it popped up and we had it right there, we'd have a new level, and that would have basically run the life of the inversion. And at that point, the market would need to choose if it's going to reinvert or not. And at this late in the day, I don't think a reinversion would make much sense. But as far as I'm concerned, this got to the level that we wanted it to get to. We pushed out those people we were looking to push out yesterday if the bulls could show up. So we got all the things we wanted. We did. This was really good. So tomorrow the market needs to reestablish. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing to watch. You should be watching to see what these bulls can do, or if the bulls are going to step aside and allow elasticity. If the elasticity shows up in the morning, in my head, we're looking at a wide range. Essentially, there's not enough conflict and differences of opinion for the market to really get directional. And so if they just immediately showed up and said, yeah, let's just run elasticity, at that point, I'd say, oh, I see what's going on. I see. This is ranginess. And if you remember yesterday, right here, I was saying this looks like range behavior to me, where you're trying to stimulate something that's not really working. You're almost forcing a trade, and it caused them some problems. So I think if tomorrow this came up and was last dizzy, I'd say, okay, so we're looking at just a really wide range on this. Is what I would think. And I think that the bulls would step aside for both to burn off the tension, but also because it's like, well, we're not quite ready. We don't quite have enough backing to get this to really take off. That's how I would interpret that tomorrow. So here we go. We're getting this to pop. We're getting it 74. I kind of think 31.78. I'd like to see a nice sweep, and a sweep is when you typically what happens is you're looking at this number and it suddenly goes from like 31.73.50 and then it reads 31.74.50 and you're like, wait, it didn't even do any of that, it didn't tick any in the middle. It just instantly pops up. And I think that instant change is so fast because there was real money getting transferred, and that transfer just caused a repricing. It was just a different value immediately. And that's why I think that happens. So that's what I'd be looking for to see this, to say, okay, there it is. They unwound, the cash transfer happened. The market felt that little like jolt as the money moved through the ACH system or however it works. And then that would be it. So, and then keep your eye right here. I think this should probably accelerate a little bit up into the close. And then we're going to be happy. I think we're going to be happy. Again, I think into the weekend, if you are looking at a swing trade and you have something from the lower half of this range, meaning, you know, this position, or this position, and you were able to pick something up from these three, and you decided to get a little gutsy, this looks like we might be able to see this continue further on Monday. Personally, I think the stress of 2 or 3 days over the weekend isn't worth the extra 10 or 15 points you're going to pick up from it. In my head, I don't think it's worth it. I would rather just come in tomorrow and react or retrade or something along those lines than to hold for an extra couple of points over the weekend, where that over the weekend you're just stressed about it. But that's just me. Some people are better at that. You can just shut it off. You just walk away. If that's the case, I think we have some good opportunities here. Let's take a look at the volume profile. I wanted to point something out that I was talking about yesterday, and I think this could be useful. If you remember, remember this situation? We were like really, really far away from the point of control. And that's just, you just don't, like, the point of control needs to pop down. We finally did get it to pop down right into the close. And I think that was important. This kind of stuff where that you're just way, I mean, it just feels like stretching, you know, it's like all the volume's here, but for some reason price is like really far away from it. You're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you down there searching for stuff you're not finding? If you're finding volume, the point of control would have moved down. You'd have found a bunch of volume comparable to what you had before. So I thought this was interesting. We finally got it to move down, and you can see that that's marked out here with the longest dash is the previous day. This is 1 day back. That's 2 days back, and that's 3 days back. And you see we got that, and then essentially the market again tried to push outside here. We got inside, there's the retest. It took forever, and there we finally retested the lower. So if you went outside, inside, and essentially all of this was the retest, and there's the retest, and then the run. And it ran right up to the top side of the range there, and then has continued to, you can see, expanding. And right now it's currently expanding just right out the top as it pushes higher and higher and higher without finding volume. So after this expansion's done, the market's going to need to decide if it's going to find more volume and build another point of control, and this will shift up, or it's going to come right back to the point of control. It's going to need to do one. You can't just stay up there where there's no volume. Markets need to go to where the volume is, because essentially the financial markets make a bunch of money off of commissions. So they're designed to go find orders. So if you're sitting in an area where there's no orders, that's just totally conflicts with the entire business model of markets. It's nonsensical. It's not going to happen. At the end of the day, the best philosophy here is, how does the money work? And that tells you how volume profile works, in my opinion. So that's pretty good. I also noticed that debt, you can see the debt spike. We had that debt spike. And I think that if you're going to buy into a large major swing position, a secondary, that you should use debt. And I think seeing spike up tells us that somebody was filling orders into these lows with this debt. They were using their credit card, not cash. And I think some of the difficulties we've had may have been because of that. And seeing the response today, that essentially the bullishness came in, that I think this was a major secondary bullish position. Somebody is continuing to buy into this with debt. And we saw that there. They're not using cash. They're using debt on that dip. That, at least that's how I'm looking at it. I have just, oh, there we go. Okay, so we've gotten up to 31.75.25. Tension, it's like a little, possibly some acceleration right in that section there. But I was thinking, you know, something good, but just closing up high is just going to pressure anyone. Happy said he's expecting a sample of the bears on Monday to fail, and that he feels like there's a rehearsal of behaviors before we take off to 3,300, which I can see that, yeah. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is good. If you were able to catch that big move, I think the most important thing, if I was to be super happy with everybody listening, it would be to hear that you were able to figure out what was going on, and that after they lost control, where the bulls defended this and the bears did nothing here, that at about this area, you were able to pick up that this was bullish, that the bears had failed and the bulls had gained control. If even if you didn't trade, if you really did figure that out, you are on the road to not needing to watch these videos. If you had figured that out, if you could see that in real time, you are doing great. This was a day when I think that if you were just sat down and tracked the events and you tried, that it should have become pretty clear. And I would love it if everybody was able to have seen that as it developed and been able to pick it apart, because that tells me that you guys are making a lot of progress. I think there can be some nuance to it, some tricks to maybe think about. Yesterday was a good example of that, but I think today was a day when everybody should have been able to figure that out on their own, to see those events, mark them out, and say, I see what's going on here, especially in conjunction with yesterday's market. I think everybody should have been able to figure that out. So if you guys did, I'm super happy. You should be very proud of yourself. If you were able to do that and take advantage of it and make a little money, even better, because that takes a lot. It takes a lot to figure out the narrative. It takes even more to trust that you're right in real time, to say, this is the narrative and I think this is what's going on, and to believe in yourself and to take up position. That takes even more. So if you're able to get in and you rode this up and we got to that area and you're out already and you made some money, you took advantage of narrative, the most powerful thing, in my opinion, in markets, ideas. And you're able to turn that into money. You are on the road to doing really well with the system. Don't abandon your old trading strategies. But if you can figure this out and then add it to those strategies, I think you're on the road to doing really well and being really useful as a trader, where you can contribute. You'll be able to make some money. You'll be able to say things like, I understand what's going on. And in my head, I can't think of anything better than knowing what's going on in the trading world. Entries just don't satisfy me anymore. Just being like, oh, I had an entry that's really successful. It's like, I don't care. I mean, good for you. I'm really glad. Sign me up, maybe. But I much prefer to know what's happening, to know who's here, to get it, and to be able to understand why it moved down, why it moved up. It's like satisfying. It's just so unsatisfying to see an entry and an exit. There's just nothing to it. You got no answers, no understanding. You're not a part of it. You're not real. You're just nothing. So I prefer. So if you guys were able to pick that out, take advantage of it, then you're on the right road, because that means you understood what was happening in front of you. You're able to see that, and then take advantage. That's the best thing you could possibly do. You're a real member of the trading community. You get what's going on. You see the bulls and bears fighting. You get it. Then you'll be able to do this on your own. You won't need to watch videos and listen to people. You'll come in and contribute, because then I can share what I see and you can share what you see, and then we can have a better view of the market and what's happening. So that's what I'm seeing. I don't know that there's going to be much more opportunity into the close today over the last 15 minutes. My next opportunity to participate in the market will be on Monday, after the market has sort of established or said what it's going to do, and then some clarity should show up there, and you say, okay, I see this is going to be a gap and go. We're going to get some more drama. What's going to happen? And then try and take advantage of the outcome of whatever tomorrow morning's event is going to be. Are these bulls going to continue? Are these bulls going to burn off? Are we going to have a major range, or are we going to break through and we're going to be pushing up through the highs, and this is just going to keep going? I think that today the bulls established themselves, but we haven't made it really clear exactly how this is going to play out over the next couple days, into next week. I don't think that's been really established. We just established that the bulls are not going to take this lying down. They saw what the bears were doing. They were able to turn the bears upside down. They were able to gain control of the market, but just taking out the bears once, that's good. But I mean, is this just a wide range? Is this going to just flip around and we're going to head back down, or are they going to keep this going? Tomorrow or Monday, that's going to become abundantly clear. So that's why I'm like, it's really hard for me to say if you should hop in and try and catch a swing here. I don't know. I don't think so. I think you should wait until we establish the next opportunity to take advantage. And remember, there's no real too high to buy. There's no price that's too high or too low. It's just about the events and how things are playing out. There may be opportunity to buy tomorrow much higher, and it'll continue to move higher, or maybe it'll gap down and we'll get some more drama, and then it'll take off again and we'll get some advantage there. I'm not sure. But I just want to make it clear that the two opportunities here, because I don't want that part to be ambiguous. Otherwise, I don't see much else going on. We're just going to have to wait until Monday to see if we can get some more opportunities. So it's looking like we might see a further push up. The inversion's still in place, but I mean, it got through the areas that I was looking for. There's not much else there's not much else. Oh, Jim just posted 2 tests. So he thinks that there's a good chance it breaks higher, unless you're posting on different subject, because that actually doesn't look like the charts that I'm looking at. I think he's posting about something else. Tesla. He's posting about Tesla. He's a big Tesla fan. So that's where we are. I think I am going to be done a little early today and take the kids for a walk and catch some sunshine. Let me know if you guys were able to keep up with this. I think it'd be good if you watched all morning through the morning. I'd like to know what things you saw, what things you were thinking, or if you were able to pick up on exactly what we just covered right now. If you were able to say, yeah, that's the way I interpreted it. I actually thought that was pretty good. Or if it wasn't clear, maybe I could do a better job of explaining and prepping. My goal is to prep you really, really well into the close to get an idea about what events, or at least who's playing and what they're trying to do, so that in the morning you can track those events and see them happening, and then understand how that is going to work out. Hopefully this is a good model to do. Maybe it's not. Let me know. Feedback is the only way I know. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So if it's working for you and you feel like you're keeping up and it's making sense, let me know. If it's not working and you're like, I don't really see how you came to that conclusion, or I don't really see what you're saying. It doesn't make any sense to me. Shoot me a message. Let me know. so I could clarify, or we could talk about it, because I think that you guys are useful. I think that people in general are smart and intelligent. I think that you guys are good traders, and I want you to do well so that eventually you can post good trading ideas I can take advantage of. Then we'll all do better. We can all share our ideas. So I'm going to hop off here. It's 15 minutes early. I don't think you should short this. Don't short, please. Tension. I want to see just how high tension can get. And that's it. I'll see you guys on Monday.